The kitchen light gave off a faint hum, a sound I only seemed to notice when Martha wasn't speaking. It was a Thursday evening, the kind that usually faded into the background of an ordinary marriage, yet the air felt different. It carried a weight, a tension I couldn't fully identify at the time. I stood by the stove, steam from a pot of pasta rising into my face when she walked into the kitchen. She didn't say hello. She didn't even glance at the dinner I had spent the last 40 minutes preparing. Instead, she tossed her keys onto the marble island with a sharp clatter and adjusted the strap of her leather bag. "I'm going to the coast this weekend," she said, her voice flat, leaving no room for discussion. I paused, the wooden spoon frozen in midair. "The coast? We have the quarterly insurance premiums due on Monday, and I thought we were finally going to deal with the leak in the spare bedroom." Martha never looked up from her phone. Her thumbs moved quickly across the screen, and a small private smile played at the corners of her mouth, a smile she hadn't directed at me in more than a year. "Nicole found a last-minute deal at that resort we liked," she replied. "I need a reset, Damien. Work is exhausting, and honestly, so is this house." The dismissal hurt, but the casual way she delivered it hurt even more. "We don't have the luxury of a reset right now," I said, trying to keep my frustration from showing. "We agreed on a budget." She finally looked at me. There was no warmth in her eyes, only cold impatience sharpened by annoyance. Before she could answer, a phone buzzed on the counter. Not mine, hers. She had left it there while getting a glass of water, and the screen lit up with a call from Nicole. As she picked it up, she pressed speaker, perhaps believing it would prove how settled the plans already were. "Tell him you're coming, regardless of the whining," Nicole's voice crackled through the speaker, followed by a harsh, mocking laugh. Martha didn't seem embarrassed. She didn't apologize for her friend's disrespect. She didn't even turn off the speaker. Instead, she stared directly at me, almost daring me to challenge her. "If you don't like how I spend my time or my money, Damien, then divorce me." The words came out with clinical precision, as if she were reading instructions from a handbook. Nicole laughed again on the other end. The sound scraped against my nerves like broken glass. Martha took a slow sip of water, her eyes never leaving mine. She expected me to fold. She expected the familiar routine, me begging her to stay, me explaining why we needed to work together, me eventually apologizing for a conflict she had started. But standing there beneath the hum of the kitchen light, something changed inside me. It wasn't anger. It was the complete absence of it. A deep and sudden silence settled in my chest. The emotional burden I had carried for years, the desperate need to keep a sinking marriage afloat, simply disappeared. "All right," I said. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw the spoon. I simply turned back to the stove and switched off the burner. Martha blinked. For a brief moment, her confident expression slipped. Then she covered it with a shrug. "Good," she muttered, grabbing her bag. "I'll be back late Sunday. Don't make it a thing." She walked out of the room, leaving behind the scent of expensive perfume and the echo of her ultimatum. I never ate the pasta. Instead, I sat in the living room long after she had gone to bed. A notebook rested on my lap, and page after page filled with the cold mathematics of a life coming apart. I reviewed bank statements. I examined the joint accounts she treated like a personal spending fund. I reread the lease agreement I had signed in good faith. By 3 in the morning, I had opened a new account at another bank. By 4, I had redirected my direct deposit. The next morning, I watched her leave. She was dressed for a vacation I wasn't invited to, rolling her suitcase toward the door with an air of quiet triumph. "Try not to mope the whole time," she said without looking back as the door clicked shut. The moment she left, the apartment felt larger, lighter. That morning, I sat in the office of a woman named Lena Hayes, an attorney who specialized in the kind of high-conflict separation I was about to begin. I told her everything: the lack of partnership, the financial irresponsibility, The ultimatum. Lena wasn't a woman who wasted words, but her efficiency brought a strange sense of comfort. "You sure?" she asked, her pen hovering over a legal pad. I looked at the wedding ring on my finger. It no longer felt like a symbol of commitment, it felt like a shackle. "I've never been more certain of anything," I replied. The rest of the weekend was spent in calculated motion. I gathered every document Lena requested. I photographed the condition of the apartment. I spoke with a friend named Henry, who offered the blunt honesty I had avoided hearing for years. He asked me a simple question: "Would you let a stranger talk to you the way Martha does?" The answer came instantly: no. And with that realization, the last trace of guilt disappeared. Martha returned Sunday evening looking refreshed, radiant, and completely unaware that her world had already changed. She dropped her bag and immediately started talking about the resort, the parties, and the people she had met. I sat quietly on the sofa. The folder containing the separation agreement rested on the coffee table. Eventually, she noticed it. "What's this?" she asked, her voice dropping slightly. "A new budget?" "It's the divorce you asked for," I replied. The silence that followed was absolute. She opened the folder and began reading. With every page, her movements became more frantic. "You're serious?" she asked. "Because of one weekend?" "No, Martha," I said calmly. "Because you showed me that you don't value me, and because you're right, I don't like it." Her face twisted, not with sadness, not with regret, but with the shock of someone who had suddenly lost all leverage. She tried to change direction. She mentioned a coworker named Julian who had been on the trip, insisting he was only a friend who listened when I wouldn't. The confession of emotional infidelity didn't hurt. It only confirmed that I was making the right decision. That was the moment she realized the man who once begged for her attention no longer existed. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I didn't give her the drama she expected. I simply handed her a pen. She signed with a trembling hand, her pride finally collapsing beneath the weight of its consequences. 2 days later,